Lecture method of teaching, merits and demerits. Lecture method is one of the oldest methods used in classroom by teachers to impart knowledge to students. So, it is becoming necessary to explain the meaning, merit, and pitfalls in lecture method and also provide hints for effective utilization of this method. Teaching, in its simplest sense, is imparting knowledge. It is the connotation of experience. This experience may consist of facts, truths, doctrines, ideas, or ideals, or it may consist of the processes or skills of an art. The teacher is the sender or the source. The educational material is the information or message, and the student is the receiver of the information. This type of sending and receiving is known as communication. There are various modes of communications. It may be taught by the use of words, by signs, by objects, by actions, or by examples. But whatever the substance, the mode, or the aim of the teaching, the act itself, fundamentally considered, is always substantially the same. It is a communication of experience. It is like a painting of a picture one conceives in the mind of another. It is the influence over the thought and understanding and the shaping them thereof to the understanding of some truth which the teacher knows and wishes to communicate. Lecture method of teaching, merits and demerits. Lectures, in the sense, are systematic presentation of knowledge. It is considered as effective means of teaching. It is oldest teaching method given by philosophy of idealism. As used in education, the lecture method refers to the teaching procedure involved in clarification or explanation to the students of some major idea. This method lays emphasis on the penetration of contents into the minds of the students. Concept of lecture method. Teaching by lectures is probably one of the oldest methods used by classroom teachers. As a widely practiced method of teaching, a teacher can reach a large number of students at the same time. A large amount of materials can be covered in a short period of time. This is a teacher-centered approach involving largely a one-way form of communication from teacher to students. The teacher, as the authoritative figure, does most of the writing and talking, with the students as mere passive recipients of information, listening and writing down a few notes and asking few or no questions. The basic fundamental postulations of this type of method are that the teacher has knowledge or can acquire knowledge, and that the teacher can give knowledge to students. The lecture method is considerably cheap to operate since no special teaching aids are required. It requires nominal planning. Its expository nature provides the teacher a feeling of security as the influential figure in the class. No matter how easy this method may appear, teachers must make efforts to plan and organize their lecture to cover the subject matter to be presented and the manner in which it will be presented. In the introduction, the law teacher should identify the subject of the lecture and connect it with past lessons and try to stimulate interest on the subject matter. The body of the lecture should be presented in a logical order, building from what the students already know towards new knowledge that the teacher wants them to absorb. Knowledge is presented in small enough doses so that the students can absorb the material at a slow enough pace. The pace, however, should not be too slow to make the students disinterested. Both the level of vocabulary used and the technical nature of the subject must correspond to the capability of the students. Teacher is more active and students are passive, but he also uses question answers to keep them attentive in the class. It is used to motivate, clarify, expand, and review the information. By changing his voice, by impersonating characters, by shifting his posing, by using simple devices, a teacher can deliver lessons effectively. While delivering his lecture, a teacher can indicate by his facial expressions, gestures, and tones the exact soul of meaning that he wishes to convey. Thus, we can say that when teacher takes help of a lengthy or short explanation in order to clarify his ideas or some fact, that explanation is termed as lecture or lecture method. The primary advantage of a lecture is its ability to present a large number of facts in a short period of time, but it is necessary that the students should accept and understand the subject matter to be presented. Lecture method makes fewer demands on the teacher's time for planning and preparing and is therefore an attractive and easy method of teaching. It is very useful in conveying factual information when introducing new topics. The merits of lecture method. The advantages can be explained. The teacher controls the topic, aims, content, organization, sequence, and rate. Emphasis can be placed where the teacher desires. The lecture can be used to motivate and increase interest, to clarify and explain, to expand and bring in information not available to the students, and to review. The number of students listening to the lecturer is not important. Students can interrupt for clarification or more detail. The lecture can be taped, filmed, or printed for future use. Other media and demonstrations can be easily combined with the lecture. The lecture can be easily revised and updated. The teacher can serve as a model in showing how to deal with issues and problems. Students are familiar to the lecture method. It is relatively less expensive as no special apparatus is needed. Lecture method gives a teacher a sense of security by reliance upon the supposed authority of the dispenser of knowledge. The lecture method channels the thinking of all students in a given direction. Large materials can be covered in a short time period. It is very economical to use. Because of its advantages, a majority of instructors use the lecture method. The lecture is one of the most efficient teaching methods for presenting many facts or ideas in a relatively short time. Material that has been sensibly organized can be presented quickly in rapid succession. The lecture is particularly suitable for introducing a subject to ensure that all students have the necessary background to learn a subject. We can present basic information in a lecture. By using the lecture method in this manner, we can offer students with varied backgrounds of common understanding. A brief introductory lecture can give direction and purpose to demonstration or prepare the students for discussion. The lecture is a convenient method for instructing large groups. If necessary, we can use a public address system to ensure that all students can hear us. The lecture is sometimes the only efficient method to be used if student to faculty ratio is high. The lecture is often useful to supplement material from other sources or for information difficult to obtain in other ways. If students do not have time for research or if they do not have access to reference material, the lecture can be a good help. In subject areas where information is available in widely scattered places such as in textbooks, journals, tapes, etc., the lecture allows the instructor to summarize and emphasize pertinent material, reports current research and information, which change frequently, may not be easily available in written form, and the lecture can give students the most up-to-date information. The lecture allows a large number of students to receive information from real experts in a subject. In general, a person who can speak from actual experience or a scholar who has carefully analyzed the results of research will have great credibility with students. The lecture is often the most effective way of communicating the energy and enthusiasm of a person who has actual experience in a field, thus motivating students. The demerits of lecture method, as given by Mortimer J. Adler in How to Read a Book, a lecture has been well described as the process whereby the notes of the teacher become the notes of the student without passing through the mind of each other. Lecture method is a very traditional method of teaching and therefore has received a great deal of disapproval. In this modern era, when educational methods and curriculum content are undergoing extensive reforms, We cannot continue with the old tradition as it is not so effective. As well as the grown up students cannot listen to someone continuously. Also, it does not provide the students opportunities to practice communication or manipulative skills. Lecture method does not promote learning since it discourages students' activities and thus denying ample opportunity for assessment of progress. It encourages rote learning and allows little scope for the students to develop an inquiry mind and critical thinking towards their learning. It is not suitable for slow learners. Lecture method is not adequate in teaching certain types of concepts, for example, attitudes and feelings, which are not learned through pure telling. Due to its expository nature, it is very difficult to adopt the two individual differences among students. It makes students to be passive listeners, and this does not allow students to be actively involved in both the planning and development of learning. Consequently, the desired learning outcome may not be achieved. The following are the disadvantages of lecture method. Some of the students may already know the content of the lecture while some may not be ready for the lecture. Those who now may not be interested. Those who are not ready may be restless. This may not give the possible effect to the teaching. Lectures are group based. In India, their huge gathering is before the teacher. Some of the classes have more than 100 students. It is possible that the teacher may not be able to pay attention to an individual. Hence, it will become an address to the gathering rather than teaching. It is difficult to maintain student interest and attention for a full hour of lecture. The teacher may fail to keep the same tone, volume of voice, and the contents of his or her lecture must be interesting. This may not be possible in some serious subjects like the jurisprudence or the code of civil procedure. The communication is mostly one way from the teacher to the students. Usually, there is little student participation. The students who do participate are few in number and tend to be the same students each class. The teacher dominates the class and hence the students just have to listen. Most of the students are not habituated of taking notes. They sit in the class as if it is some storytelling session. Students either want dictation or simply purchase tailor-made notes from market without understanding the gravity of the subject. Lecture information is forgotten very quickly during or after the lecture. As the student is neither attentive nor taking notes that they cannot revise, which has been taught and happen to forget. There is no immediate and direct check of whether learning has taken place. If the teacher simply delivers a lecture and walks out of the class, he or she is not aware about the learning habits of the student. Also, if the teacher avoids asking questions about the topic lectured on the day before, he or she does not get the feedback whether the students really followed what he is being taught. Not the teacher comes to know about his teaching. All this is understood only when the examinations are conducted and the results are declared. But most of the time, it's too late. Lectures are not effective when teaching objectives are not clear. The lecture method encourages student dependence on the teacher. Students are not very active when only listening. Few teachers have been taught how to lecture effectively. In India, we do not have courses like B.Ed or D.Ed to teach in law colleges. A person is eligible to teach in colleges and universities after attaining mere qualification, that is, passing net set exams in a particular subject or pursuing a PhD or MPhil. There is neither a course nor a training session for a person appointed as a law lecturer. Guidelines for effective use of lecture method. The teacher should use sufficient teaching aids, good illustration and demonstration while using the lecture method to achieve his objectives. For a college A maximum time or duration of the lecture becomes very important. The young, immature minds have short interest span and limited ability to retain points given in the lecture. Adults usually can sit for an hour receiving lecture. To make a lecture effective and achieve what other participatory methods like discussion, project, role play, mock-up methods, etc. can achieve the desired effect, the following rules must be meticulously observed. The students must sit on comfortable chairs or benches facing away from windows to avoid light rays in the eyes. The teacher should keep distracting noise to a minimum. This is because outside noise prevents the students from hearing the teacher and distracts their attention. The room should neither be too cool nor too hot. If the students are uncomfortable, they will be irritated and will not be able to concentrate on what the teacher is saying. The teacher should avoid many movements because it attracts students' attention. He should ensure that every student sees and hears him from any angle. If aids are not being used, he must not get between the aids and the students, otherwise, he will block visibility of the students. Teachers should avoid coverage of too many concepts, for this may tend to confuse the students. Rather, the lesson should be summarized to help students review and understand the major concepts, and retention will be increased. Teachers must encourage students to ask questions and make comments, as this may reduce boredom. Finally, no single teaching method should be used. To maximize learning, therefore, a lecture should be followed by discussion, questioning, practice, or some other methods. Very rarely can a lecture by itself accomplish a teaching activity. Though it is often said that lecturing is a poor teaching method, it is a kind of last resort for instruction. A lecturer must know how to impart information or stimulate interest effectively. If the lecture is poorly presented, badly organized, dull, and uninspiring, he fails consequently. Even when the lectures are finely presented and well organized, and the lecturer's charismatic personality, it is still a poor method because lecturing tends to keep students passive. After all, the whole of aim of teaching to make students think, and it requires personal activity on their part. Most of the time, the professors have to teach vast number of students, and there are some subjects in which a base has to be built and introductions performed. One has to start somewhere, and for that kind of subject, a lecture may be just fine. When our objective is to communicate some basic facts, some basic terminology, or some initial understanding about our field, the lecture can be a very useful teaching method. The trick, of course, is to do it well. Knows how to begin. The beginning can be introducing the subject and its importance. To begin planning the lectures, ask yourself many questions. For example, what is the topic one is to deliver? How does one tell his students about it? Attempt to answer these questions. Also, be aware who is the audience. One can begin by addressing an imaginary audience or practice before professors, friends, or colleagues. Don't forget, our job is to educate the students, not one, but all those students who sit in front of us. Hence, to accomplish this goal, the task is to make them feel that they want to achieve something about the subject, which makes it worthy to be taught. If taught with that awareness, it becomes significant intellectual achievements. Focus on your subject. You must know what things you should do and what should you not do with your subject. While teaching any course, one should not deliberate on what is at the background, or don't go into the history or formation of any law unless required. Moreover, a student does not want to know unless they are of higher class or they have some curiosity pertaining to information he has regarding the same. One must not put emphasis on what one knows. It is very important that the lecturer helps his students create links between the facts they are learning. It is necessary to spend a lot of time unless you are able to show them how to create links to information outside the field. Because law never operates in vacuum, nor can it remain alone. Example, the Criminal Procedure Code cannot be understood without studying Indian Penal Code. The teacher of CRPC must be able to link it with IPC. For studying environmental law, the relation between the environmental law and the constitution, as well as the environmental law and IPC, has to be discussed. This is to shun the childishness of students who assume every course should be taken as an isolated island. If the students are able to understand this intellectual consistency, then they may be able to reason, and thus the irrationality could be converted into rationality, which takes an additional significance. The important questions regarding this topic are first, define lecture method of teaching. Second, mention the merits of lecture method. Third, mention the demerits of lecture method. Fourth, explain the guidelines for effective utilization of lecture method. Fifth, students must prepare a topic and deliver the lecture in the class. As a conclusion, this topic discussed the concept of lecture method, the merits and pitfalls. Hints on the effective utilization of lecture method are also highlighted. First and the most important issue is that the students are used to the lecture method, wherein the teacher controls the topic, the desire of teacher is emphasized. This method can be used to motivate and increase interest, to clarify and explain, to expand and bring in information not available to the students. Students can interrupt for clarification or more detail. Also, a lecture can be easily revised and updated, relatively less expensive and very economical to use as no special apparatus is needed, and it gives a teacher a sense of security by reliance upon the supposed. Large topics can be covered in a short period of time. Lectures being are group based, it is possible that the teacher may not be able to pay attention to an individual. It is difficult to maintain student interest and attention for a full hour of lecture, as the communication is mostly one way from teacher to the students. Students often get occupied and do not concentrate. There is no participation of student, and those who do not participate are few in number and tend to be the same students each class. Students have not learned to take notes, and therefore the lecture information is forgotten quickly during and after the lecture. The most important factor is that there is no immediate and direct check of whether learning has taken place or not, and hence the teacher comes to know only after the test or midterm examination, etc. A person is eligible to teach in colleges and universities after attaining mere qualification, that is, passing net set exams in a particular subject or pursuing a PhD or MPhil. There is neither a course nor a training session for a person appointed as a law lecturer.